prayers begin. Blessings unfold just as well as the sins. The sacrifices we make on the day-to-day. Your curiosity's like, when will the pain end? Paranoia cause them demons lurking, and sometimes they approach disguised as a friend and realize nothing in this life is for certain. Heaven on earth is a concept that comes from within. He yelling, fuck the world, you pussy type bitch. But you niggas knew life was built like a light switch. Off as soon as the shit hits the fan. You thrive to be fly but don't wanna see them propellers spin. Fill that head with information, my nigga. Fill that persona with some patience, my nigga. Don't get discouraged when shit gets a little realer. Let that ego shrink and make them dreams bigger. As I speak to who I see, we discuss who we seek in the mirror. Wipe away the stain and now I see a little clearer. It's non-existent if we're talking about fearing life's about. So be bout it, cause they aiming for your ears. They just waiting for an error. Mission abort. Condone that bullshit, me? None of the sort. See, we kinda know what's in the future, but none of us sure. Cause only God can reveal what's coming ashore. Yes, then there's money, your lord niggas taking their own life cause of things they can't afford. Shit, going local minus the 4. If you worship the root of evil, become morally poor, nigga. Can't even get on this level, That's why I sit on this level, Shit, you can't even get on this level, That's why I'm chilling on this level, They want an invitation to this level, You are now invited to this level, So take advantage of this level,
When you get that opportunity, go ahead and let the people know. If they don't know, this is practice makes perfect. You can do it with your eyes closed.
And let the fakers pretend they dress but unclothed, exposing the hate within. Your true feelings is different from what you tend to say. Your boldness relies on the cushion Hennessy. Yeah, a real nigga in the flesh, babe. Them bitches know I'm smart, but they still wanna test me. Them lame hoes still wanna unprotected sex me. And them lame niggas still wanna be the next me. Like who am I for you to copycat? But everybody's like a piece of candy. They gotta rap, and when you go to holler at them, they don't holler back. Niggas never learn how to take their pride and swallow. They just looking for a follow back. The minds are so mellow, so I had to say goodbye before I said hello. A nigga getting busy for the town. Shit, I'm just elevating, and that's how it's going down, nigga. Can't even get on this level, That's why I sit on this level, Shit, you can't even get on this level, That's why I'm chilling on this level, They want an invitation to this level,
We want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. We want equality by any means necessary. We don't feel that in 1964, living in a country that is supposedly based upon freedom and supposedly the leader of the free world, we don't think that we should have to sit around and wait for something to take a
All of your assets, you have to protect it. Just set your trust up, come get your status corrected. Yeah, you know we moving more than mountains. Fuck your school, fuck your voting system, fuck your water fountains. Melanin, I know you heard of me. You can never murder me. I want that gold you owe me now. It go from 1933. I want y'all to stand on all the treaties that you sold to me. Cause we was already here. Y'all came on a boat to me. And know this God-given land we all holding feet. Simple, absolute gratitude, your majesty. I am not in my straw man, you not controlling me. Certified, signed, sealed, stamped by the notary. Don't try to lie to my face like you ain't just a colonist who tricked us with contracts, but you fail to acknowledge it. And history books of fertilizer, one big pile of shit. Acting like you freed us from slavery, but ain't abolished it. The plantation just got renovated. Driver's license and passports are the new slave pay. papers. How they foreclosing on the ones they gave acres. We allowed them entry, even trusted them as neighbors. They took everything from us and made us ask for favors. And posed as the only helping hand that's there to save us. Boycott, don't try to keep up with the fad, cause the money that we save, the properties that we rehab. Monopoly with the bad. Tears don't fall from my eyes, cause they see our what, but they don't see our why. You was born in June, but I only seen July. Influenced by bad spirits like a DUI. You ain't do no estate planning, but you think you fly. Now we gon' need 3 fish fries to see you die. We the revolt, boy, don't play with me. The time is now, this royalty over slavery. Damn.
I hear that verse again.
Hello. Listen, I did everything you told me to do. What? I was filing the paperwork. You said I was going to get discharged. The motherfucking tow truck in the driveway right now, taking the car. Ain't nothing discharged. You told me I could discharge the house. Now they taking the house too. It's getting foreclosed on. What I supposed to do? Book a consultation?
Nah. Come to royalty over slavery. You dig? Yeah, I can get your land back. Yeah, I can discharge your debt. You gotta live by 5 principles before we just connect. Cause you could pose as my friend and then really be the threat. Like Brutus v. Julius and them dudes that killed Malcolm X.
Get your hand out of my pocket! Get your hand out of my pocket, nigga! Get your hands out of my pocket! Get your hand out!
Brother, please.
Y'all think getting remedies important. We make your lawyers lose their indemnity insurance. King Chameleon, private, I don't wanna be popular. Grandpapa, Hulk Papa, Mama Black Mafia. Yeah, we them big owners holding rank. You call Rocket Lawyer, I call the owner of the bank. He in the private at the temple, like Ginobili in the paint. And we got 3 militaries, we might be rolling in some tanks. While you balancing with a check gross, going to work for debt notes. Overtime all your life paying mortgages, then you left broke. Damn. Shout out to Mayweather, who's obviously woke. He settled $18 million with a promissory note. I'm not your corporation's chattel, this world gotta be a joke. Blind leading the blind, so we never gonna see.
But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Everybody fake woke while the president is asleep. So I introvert myself cause it's evident to me. No one saves us but us. Buddha said it in BC. No title deeds and just reference the evidence to me. Man, you don't own it, you a tenant and it says it on your deed. You said with a sign but didn't take the time to even read. There's gotta be an idiocracy. They call you crazy as Kanye just for thinking logically. 2 million nationals backing us to stop who ain't stopping me. For instance, when Columbus came over here, they admitted Native Americans was already there. But if our kids take a test on who discovered land we on, and you say Native Americans, you get the question wrong. Don't lie to us, you are just a colonist. Can't hide the truth, we got all the proof from the anthropologists. We know the system now, it's time to get up out of it. But it's our fault, cause we fought so hard to be a part of it.
Now, I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's a blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
All people trying to burn us, out and selling services with disclaimers, saying that it ain't for legal purposes. No cash, broke ass, internet burglars with temporary schemes and a lot of fraudulent dreams. Yeah, we got our own embassy, we got our own consulate, foreign administrations and 3 armies on top of it. We live by 5 principles, but we'll die for this. Freedom back to the people, protect them from the apocalypse. I took that title that they gave me and I clouded it. F what you say, sets the Cubate, I got a bond with this. My way of thinking pissed the military off. I ain't with their way of thinking, roll the military law. We coming peaceful, outside the mosque and the cathedral. And we'll resort to violence, I gotta protect my people. They call us ghetto, they call us thugs. The only God they worship, guns, oil, and drugs. I'm on the block, Martin Luther King was shot, holding a gun
that killed Kennedy trying to find a remedy. You can't cancel me nor censor me with chancery and sensory. God-like energy to infinity. My actions are my testament. I got a lot of questioning. How Ben Frank was on 100 but was never president. You broke, you go to jail. You got money, you get right out. They lock you up for drugs, but they got coke in the White House. What?
All right, what's happening, people? What's up? What's up? What's up? Get them numbers up. Look at we're getting up there. Hey, we're gonna keep it going. I'm sitting here experimenting with this experiencing with this StreamYard. Peace to everybody. So you see my face. I'm real. Now Memorex. What's going on? All right, so look. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with just some, call it sharing. We're going to get some information, some stuff I done pulled up, Instagram and all this stuff. A lot of different conversations that's happening. So let's get to it. Appreciate everybody. And we're going to take a trip around the world. Well, nope. Let's go there. That's better.
To 1940, when segregation and racism was enshrined in law, blacks had the highest marriage rate of any group in society. Elderly people could walk safely in those communities without fear of being assaulted by their grandchildren. So let's look at the evidence. And we refused access to hotels. We built our own hotels, financed by our own means. When we were denied access to colleges, we built our own. Our small business formation rate was higher than whites in the 20s. And that really determines any group's participation in the economy. It is not what government does for you or what white people do. In fact, I think those who continue to push this race agenda are Eurocentric. They assume that the destiny of blacks is determined by what white people do. That has never been the case. We closed the education gap in the South between 1920 and 1940. How do we do it? Julius Rosenwald, the CEO of Sears, came together with Booker T. Washington, and he put up $4 million. The black community matched it with $4.8 million. We built 5,000 schools to teach ex-slaves how to read and write. And as a consequence of that study, that in between 1920 and 1940, the education gap in the South between whites and blacks was 3 years, 8th grade for whites, 5th grade for blacks. Mm-hmm. Within 20 years, that gap closed within 6 months. If we were able to close the education gap between 1920 and 1940 through self-determination and hard work, if we were able to out-test white schools in those cities, then the question is, in those same schools today in Baltimore, for instance, where they're run by blacks, not a single student could read at grade level or perform at grade level. So how can you say that it is racism that is the cause of the present day challenges when under segregation we achieved?
Today, had it not been for Black America in 1934, and I can tell you exactly how they did it. First, you have to understand Henry Ford had 3 car companies. First was a complete failure, sold the assets. He had a second car company which failed, and a man named Henry Leland bought it and turned it into Cadillac. And then Henry had a third company we know as Ford Motor Company. But Henry didn't really do the work. He hired some brothers and then tried to cut the brothers out. Those brothers started a car company named Dodge. So I want you to understand how incestuous this is. So Henry Leland started Cadillac. GM bought it in 1919 from him. So now General Motors has it. It's one of the top luxury brands in America. But when the Great Depression hit in 1928, nobody had money, right? You don't have auto loans. They did not exist back then. So if you couldn't pay cash for a car, you weren't getting it, and banks failed, nobody had money. So Cadillac lost 85% of their sales in 5 years. They were literally in the board meeting to shut Cadillac down with their service manager nationwide come in and goes, I think I can save the company. Like, whatever, how? He goes, we don't sell to anybody but white people. And black Americans in the South that pay white guys $300 cash over and above the price of the car so they can drive. The elite, the judges, the attorneys, the entertainers, they're for it. And Cadillac's like, what do we got to lose? So in 1934, they opened it up, the first car company ever to have integrated sales. And black Americans bought so many Cadillacs in 1934, sales went up 70%. Now I want you to ask yourself, this is the Great Depression. Nobody has money, there's credit lines. How can black Americans afford to save a luxury rate? How? They couldn't put their money in banks. And all the banks failed, all the white people lost their money. The law of unintended consequences kept black America from being harmed by the Great Depression like everybody else, believe it or not.
Wow. Wow. Whoa, did you hear that? Uh-huh.
And I talked to a gentleman who said the only reason my granddad said he knew it was a Great Depression because he saw a white man picking out his trash. I was like, wow. So, in doing this, it turned Cadillac around. And Cadillac became the first auto manufacturer to hire black Americans to the design and style team, not just the factory. So Cadillac became one of the first integrated brands, and a lot of times we have stereotypes about black America loves Cadillacs. Now you know why. They saved the damn car.
I did not.
Here's the scam. When black landowners died without wills, the land became heir property, owned collectively by all descendants. Developers would find one distant heir and buy their tiny share for cheap. Then they'd force a partition sale through the courts, selling the entire property. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, heir property is the leading cause of black involuntary land loss. Real example. A timber company bought a 4% share of one family's land for $1,000, then forced the sale of all 160 acres. The family couldn't afford to bid. They lost everything. Between 1910 and 1997, black families lost 90% of their farmland, over 12 million acres. According to research,
Whoa, my bad. My bad. Let's run it back.
that land is worth over $326 billion today. They use the legal system to steal our wealth, then blame us for the wealth gap. Share this to expose the theft. Comment heir property if you're learning this for the first time, and ask yourself, why didn't they teach you this in economics class? Legally stole millions of acres from black families using a loophole called heir property, and they're still doing it. Here's the scam. When black landowners died without wills, the land became heir property, owned collectively by all descendants. Developers would find one distant heir and buy their tiny share for cheap. Then they'd force a partition sale through the courts, selling the entire property. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, heir property is the leading cause of black involuntary land loss. Real example, a timber company bought a 4% share of one family's land for $1,000, then forced the sale of all 160 acres. The family couldn't afford to bid. They lost everything. Between 1910 and 1997, black families lost 90% of their farmland, over 12 million acres. According to research, that land is worth over $326 billion today. They use the legal system to steal our wealth, then blame us for the wealth gap. Share this to expose the theft. Comment heir property if you're learning this for the first time, and ask yourself, why didn't they teach you this in economics?
All right, so look. Now here's the issue that we got going on here. because a lot of people still think they own their land. But and they keep talking about heirs property. So under the circumstances, if you actually think that you own your land just because you have graveyard, you have grave site on there, under those circumstances, if you're paying property taxes, you do not own your land. And see, and a lot of people think, and this is how they was gradually moving along. This was the whole thing about the movement of our people. They was only given a certain part. We all know that. It was already only given a certain part of the area of that land. And most of it was by the water because they were to do business on the seas. They're governed. The United States is governed under Admiralty and Maritime Law. Okay, so under those circumstances and bankruptcy law, if you look on the district court website dealing with the federal courts, it tells you they hear 3 different type of cases: Constitution, Admiralty, bankruptcy. So if there's a constitutional violation, that is meaning that there's been a public official or somebody in a position of fiduciary responsibility is the one that is to be sued for the constitutional violation, because they are the ones to be held up under and regulated by the Constitution. Okay, so this heirs property thing is something that's very important because people got a really big misunderstanding. So this is what you guys really got to focus on. That video right there in a nutshell pretty much explained it all. And it was done through proxy, and they were just moving along. Like the guy said, they'll buy like maybe a 1 acre or something like that of just some land. And then eventually they'll just gradually just keep creeping into the interior. And then they'll end up taking over the land or utilizing their sources to foreclose. Either foreclose, do any type of writs of execution under those circumstances. Now, I've seen plenty of cases back in the day where that was happening. It actually happened to one of my family members, back in the early 1900s in Oklahoma. So under those circumstances as well, just something that's very important, I'm glad I didn't forget this, is that when these people was coming over into these areas to work, right, because they were bringing them over from the East Coast and they would actually come work in the interior, is where you had these Indian departments where they would come work. They'll be able to pick up whatever they could work with, take it out, and then they could sell it. And that's how they were doing business. They'll come, get the product, pick it, do whatever they're doing, mine it, whatever the resource might be, and then they'll take it out, and then they'll take it to their ports, and then their ports will deliver it. They would export it out. Once all that started happening, people started setting up shop. This is where you get your squatters and homesteads, so on and so forth. I'm jumping around in these places, but all these things come together. I'm not really going to get too deep into that, but that's what was actually taking place. So you got to be careful with that heirs property.
Class.
Now, this lady's going to get a little active, but just forgive her language, just for informational purpose only.
That's his Queen Elizabeth, and let me tell you why. This man here, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, yeah, he a sellout to our people. Why, you ask? If you don't know, sit back, strap up, and let me tell you what the hell he done did. This man decided that my ancestors and people that look like me that came from this land do not need to claim their nationality, their inheritance, their land. He decided it would be best for us to be reclassified as African American. Yes, African American, that we came over from Africa on slave ships. Remember I posted yesterday that you only had one ship come over here? Yeah, it was to steal our...
Oh, yeah, I got to change this. I'm figuring this out now, yeah. There we go. Let's run it back.
A death since Queen Elizabeth, and let me tell you why. This man here, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, yeah, he a sellout to our people. Why, you ask? If you don't know, sit back, strap up, and let me tell you what the hell he done did. This man decided that my ancestors and people that look like me that came from this land do not need to claim their nationality, their inheritance, their land. He decided it would be best for us to be reclassified as African American. Yes, African American, that we came over from Africa on slave ships. Remember I posted yesterday that you only had one ship come over here? Yeah, it was to steal our inheritance. And it is not by chance that you died on Black History Month on the Chinese Lunar New Year at that. Ooh-wee! I ain't been...
There's a filing cabinet in the Library of Congress that contains the voices of dead Americans, not recordings, transcriptions. Thousands of pages of handwritten and typed interviews conducted between 1936 and 1940 by government writers who were sent into homes across 24 states with a single instruction: get their stories before they're gone. The program was called the Federal Writers Project, a branch of Roosevelt's New Deal that employed out-of-work journalists, novelists, and researchers to document the lives of ordinary citizens. They collected 2,900 life histories. Then they filed them in the Library of Congress, where they sat mostly unread for nearly 40 years. I found them because I was looking for something else. I was tracing architectural records from the 1870s, trying to understand why so many...
Now, who you think they're talking about here? See, and listen closely, because this is actually taking place during the New Deal. So during the New Deal, this is right after. Now you see how this is lining up, right? I didn't do this intentionally, but these things are kind of lining up from what I'm showing. During the New Deal, this is right after the Great Depression. And then you come in with HJR 192, the House Joint Resolution, the Emergency Banking Act. All these things started taking place. And Roosevelt intentionally was having these guys gather up all these documents and these papers and interviewing Americans. This is what it made a point to say they started interviewing these Americans. So let's continue.
American courthouses and government buildings from that era feature proportions that don't match the people who supposedly used them. The same question.
Now, look at that building. Look at that. You're not making that in 2 years. That's nothing new. I mean, the structure on that building is immaculate. That's something that they always show up in Europe, like nothing in America is actually built like that. Look at that building. It's immaculate.
I keep running into. But the deeper I went into those archives, the more I realized the buildings weren't the real story. The people were. Because those 2,900 interviews captured something no textbook ever could. The first-hand memories of Americans who were alive before everything changed, and what they described doesn't match the history we've been taught. Let me explain what I mean by before everything changed. Consider the math. An American born in 1855 who lived to 85, not unusual, would have died in 1940. That means they were alive, speaking, remembering when those government writers knocked on their doors. They would have been children during the 1860s and 1870s. They would have witnessed the most dramatic transition in American history. Not gradually, not over centuries, but within a single lifetime. And their grandchildren, born in the 1920s and 1930s, heard their stories first.
I mean, look at these people. I mean, no disrespect, but boy, they dusty. They living kind of rough there. Now, we don't even know what time this is, but this is somewhere around in the 1900s.
Hand. Those grandchildren are the last generation that carries the oral history of the old world, and they're almost gone. Mary Kelly was born in 1851 in Southfield, Michigan. She lived to 113 and died in 1964. She was alive before the Civil War and survived long enough to see television in every American home. Maggie Barnes was born to a formerly enslaved woman in the early 1880s and lived to approximately 1115, dying in 1998 in North Carolina. These weren't extraordinary cases. The Gerontology Research Group has verified 16 supercentenarians born in the 1850s alone. Dozens more lived past 100. Hundreds lived past 90. An entire generation of witnesses whose memories spanned two completely different worlds. The government had the chance to record all of them. It recorded 2,900. Then it stopped. The project was defunded in 1939 after congressional hearings, turned over to state control, and effectively shut down. The interviews were boxed up, not published in any accessible form until the 1970s. 30 years of silence around the last first-hand testimony of Americans who remembered what came before. Before what, exactly? That's where October 8, 1871 becomes impossible to ignore. Every American learns about the Great Chicago Fire. Mrs. O'Leary's cow, the wooden city.
1871. You had the Great Chicago Fire. You got all these buildings being destroyed.
The rebuilding. What almost no one learns is what happened the same night at the same hour across 3 states simultaneously. In Peshtigo, Wisconsin, a firestorm consumed the entire town in approximately 1 hour. Between 2,000 and 2,500 people perished, making it the deadliest wildfire in American recorded history. The fire burned 1.2 million acres. Survivors describe winds strong enough to lift adults off the ground, flames that moved faster than a person could run, and a heat so intense that people crossing open ground simply burst into flame without being touched by visible fire. Reverend Peter Pern.
What does that sound like? Did that sound like there's something that kind of happened in Pacific Palisades? In Hawaii? In Altadena? Now, this is in the 1800s. You telling me they had fire like that back in the day? That long ago, when it was supposed to be horse and buggy? Huh.
The parish priest who survived by submerging himself in the Peshtigo River published his eyewitness account in 1874. He described a phenomenon that doesn't match any normal wildfire behavior. The available oxygen was consumed so rapidly that people who showed no burns were found deceased, as if the air itself had been weaponized. The fire created its own weather system, a vortex of superheated wind that behaved less like a forest fire and more like something detonating from a central point outward. The same night, Holland, Michigan burned. Manistee, Michigan burned. Port Huron, Michigan was threatened. Across 225 million acres of the upper Midwest, fires erupted simultaneously. The National Weather Service confirms these fires broke out across 3 states at the same time on the same evening. The official explanation is drought, lumber debris, and a cold front with high winds. Reasonable, except for one detail that has nagged researchers since 1883, the simultaneity. In 1883, a hypothesis emerged that fragments of Biela's comet had struck the atmosphere and ignited the fires from above. This theory was revisited in a 1997 documentary and investigated again in 2004 by the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Witnesses in Chicago reported blue flames burning in basements, a color consistent with unusual chemical combustion, not wood fires. The theory has never been the last American.
Blue flames? That's the same thing that they used. Well, maybe. Sound like that sound like something that they was using, they was talking about that would happen in Oahu. And kind of like the same thing they was describing in the Palisades. I don't know.
Who remembered the old world. What she told her family before dying in 1953 to approximately Chicago fire. Mrs. O'Leary's cow, the wooden city, the rebuilding.
I mean, look at these structures. Man.
Over 80 federally recognized tribes across the U.S. have gone through disenrollment. And in the past 2 decades, some estimate at least 11,000 individuals have been exiled from their tribes, including the Nooksack in Whatcom County, which in March...
Hold on. Let me put this up. Now you said blue flames are produced by the complete combustion of the hydrocarbons like methane, propane, or butane. This creates a high temperature, oxygen-rich environment. I mean, but how do you explain those, like those lasers? Didn't look like them was lasers that was coming out of there. I mean, you know. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna take your word for it.
Kicked out its last disenrolled member from its land, 306 people in total. Jamie Queen, who was also disenrolled from the Squaxin tribe, worries most about vulnerable tribal members.
Elders are getting cut off their income.
Nooksack in Whatcom County, which in March kicked out its last disenrolled member from its land, 306 people in total. Jamie Queen, who was also disenrolled from the Squaxin tribe, worries most about vulnerable tribal members.
Elders are getting cut off their income checks. They're getting cut off the treaty rights. Some people lived off of that for their entire life. They no longer have that. So they're losing their housing, their medical, their income, their whole source of identity, because now they have to reinvent themselves and figure out who they are. If they told me today, you are now re-enrolled, I'm going to tell them to shove it up their ass.
According to Cornell,
they won't be calling you. And yeah, you guys gonna have to go invent something else because that ain't working no more. You're out of here. So go reinvent yourself and have fun doing it. But get a job. Go to the want ads, Indeed.com, and go fill out an application and a resume. It's probably not that extensive because basically you was just living off the government and Indian money. So, you know, dancing in the dust and you know, bonfires ain't gonna work anymore. You're gonna have to do something else. Maybe you might start your own business, be able to create bonfires and selling them to the people. I don't know, maybe. Good luck. All right. I'm gonna pass him up. Now check this out. Check this out. Oh my goodness.
Let me say that again. Now, there are owners of private prisons that have been contracted by the states to put their prison in that state and put people in prison that are suing those states because they promised them a certain amount of occupancy. And since they've changed some of their laws to be more lenient on locking people up, which has reduced the population in the prison, and now they're suing them for that makeup because they
you can't make this up right here. Now, this one you can't make up. The prisons are suing the state for breach of contract. You're not bringing us enough niggers to our prisons. We're going bankrupt. We're losing money. You promised us this many people. I won't use that N word again like that, but you promised us. And since you're not bringing them in, we're taking you to court. You cannot make this up. Jeez.
They promised them more people than they got. This is how much of a business putting people in jail is. That because they operating at 50% and y'all promised me 75, 80%, I can sue y'all now because y'all ain't locking up enough people. Yeah, because y'all reduced and changed some of y'all laws, so y'all not locking people up for simple shit no more, like y'all was. Now, our jails ain't as full, we not making as much money. So either y'all gonna have to pay me the money that y'all, the difference, or y'all gotta lock some more people up. And the states can't afford to pay them out of the pocket trade. So now they in court going back and forth right now over this. Like, yo, this is crazy. This is how much of a commodity and how much of a business it is to lock people up in America. Because, you know, but back in the day, when they was getting 100 a day, it's probably more than that now, 200 a day or whatever for each prisoner. But yeah, you promised me when I set this prison up, I was going to be at 80%, 75, 80% occupancy. Now I've been operating at 50%. I'm losing money. Now y'all got to do something. Something got to change. Y'all got to lock some of these cats up or y'all going to have to pay me. So, like, that's crazy. Like, how is putting people in the jail just become a business? I thought jail was supposed to be a deterrent for people not to do crime. So if everybody just stopped doing crime, then what's supposed to happen then? That's going to be a problem, huh?
I mean, if this don't tell it all, I don't know what is. I can end the stream right now. This shit is crazy. You can't make this shit up. Hey, look, I've been trying to tell people it is a business. And this is considered to be collusion. This is evidence of collusion. I mean, if these prisons are taking courts to court, let me say that again. If these prisons are taking these courts to court, hey, they tell it. I mean, this is going to be epic. Somebody find that for me. I need to locate where these cases is goings on. This is absolutely insane. Just like you got, this is insane. This is going to expose everything. If the courts are been doing this for business purposes and making money off of it, everybody got to get out. All the prisons need to be empty immediately. Immediately. You're telling me that I got people I know doing 2 football field numbers. I got people I know doing half a football field numbers. I got people doing life for 3 strikes. So you telling me that was a business? Get the...
Really? Crazy. This is insane. Insane, yeah. Like, when I read that, I couldn't believe it. Like, how you suing people because they ain't bringing up people to your jail? That's
a large number, too.
Yeah, it's a large number. Yeah. The jail's supposed to stay 80% full. Yeah. Keep them in here. Lock them up. Yeah. That's how you can make their money. That's the revenue, baby. The number's at the top. I got to reach this number. So I need this amount of capacity to reach that number. 50 won't do it. I got too many empty cells in here, baby. I need beds got to be filled, baby. I got beds that need to be filled, baby. Come on now. Like a hotel. Hey, like the hotel. Just exactly like a hotel. What are you talking about? The same model. Come on now. And they, like I said, they're in court right now trying to get that paper.
Mm, mm, mm. Oh my goodness. My goodness.
The United States in 1621. Came in from England as a free black. And head rights in those days says anybody coming to the country can get 640 acres free right off the bat. Then plus you can get another 500 to 600 acres for every slave.
Man, that's crazy. I can't get over that. Damn. Man, somebody find me that.
That you own. He immediately went and had 13 blacks. So within a few years, about 15 years, he was one of the richest blacks in the colonies. Now, going up to 1638, he had all kinds of land and a whole bunch of slaves, getting close to about 70, 80 slaves now. And a white guy went over to one of his plantations, and one of the black slaves there, named John Castor, says, why am I a slave here with this guy? He says he owns me for life. And the white fellow who was a plantation owner also said, look, he doesn't own you for life. Indentured servantship normally runs 5 or 7 years. What do you mean he's got you for life? This black guy said,
what'd he say? 5 to 7 years? Why he got me for life? Wait a minute. I thought the narrative was once you're a slave for life. Huh. There we go. Another fibber.
Say, I've been working for this black slave plantation owner for almost 27 years. The guy said, well, just run off and leave. Forget about him. You don't have to keep working for him. So the black slave, John Castor, ran off. Anthony Johnson then went to court. And he sued the white plantation owner who had encouraged the black to run off. And the court accepted Anthony Johnson's claim against this black slave, saying that he owned that slave for life. Now, what happened there never had ever happened on the history of the earth, the black folk, and in this country, where all of a sudden a person laid claims against an individual for the rest of his entire naked life.
You heard what he just said? He said for the first time. The first time. So, for the first time. That's what he said, for the first time. There we go. Yeah, I noticed why a lot of these brothers like this brother right here, I can't really think of what's his name? Can't remember his name right off the top of my head. This is like when these people first started coming out and talking, they had a whole different conversation. Something or someone changed their trajectory and their path in the conversation that they wanted to talk about. Because this right here is totally different from what these people are saying now, or what they started saying, especially after civil rights.
And it was a black man. And once that court decision was made, whites picked it up. That became enslavement codes, both explicitly and implicitly. And all the states began to enact it then, based on Anthony Johnson's ruling in court that he owns another black person for life.
Huh.
Rights experience. Yes. What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks.
See, this is essentially the problem. And the public
what have we done to the immigrants?
We'll be the nigga that say something. You be the first one to push back.
Oh, black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country. That's why the Democrats are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics, because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But can I just say to Jorge, I hate to disagree with you when you're attacking President Obama, but I think the point on immigration is you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You cannot have both.
The reason people are concerned about the words they use, the reason Americans care about civil rights, the reason we are sensitive to racism is for one issue and one issue only, and that is how black Americans were treated in this country. It is because of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. Those do not compare. Irish, the new groups, they always get a little bad treatment. Do not compare that to how blacks are treated in this country. You don't get to piggyback on the black experience in America. You do not get to do that just because you are a woman and
yeah. Uh-huh.
Report came out and said the black family was in trouble. 25% of our babies were being born out of wedlock. When the report came out, it says we need national action to save the black family. When Monahan gave the report to Johnson, Johnson made a statement. The civil rights organizations pushed back and called Monahan racist and said the black family is peripheral. They said the real problem, they said what you're doing is you're blaming the victim. The real problem is racism. So from that point, an activism started, but it was a different kind of activism. We had an activism that started right after we were freed as slaves. Men drove and
dodged that, sidestepped that,
walked miles and miles to find their wives and their children that they had been separated from. That was activism. And then, praise God, they went to work. That was activism. They raised their own food. They raised their own pigs, cows, and fed their families. They started their own schools and educated their children. And then before long, they were building their own businesses, their own hospitals, their own schools. That was their activism. They said, don't give me nothing, just get out of my way, and I'll do it. And I'll
there we go. And yeah, this is what we're talking about right here. The real activism. This is the direction that needs to happen. Now, this is a way of making sure that, the participation with, not in, with the United States is going to be paramount and most prosperous for us. Doing it this way, being able to get back to do it. They convoluted everything and they got their paws everywhere, and it's hard to actually see the trees from the forest. But at the end of the day, this can happen. Again.
Children were educated in segregated schools, and they were safe there because they had dedicated teachers who understood that what I put in these children is going to lift up our race, even in a racist society. That was activism, strengthening the family. But we left off the family and went to marching and fighting the government and fighting the different aspects of society. And then we forgot the family, and guess what happened? We went from 25% of our babies being fatherless to 72%, while we are electing black officials that sell us out and tell us to kill our babies and tell us we can cut off our little boys' thing. I don't need that activism. And we don't get caught up in this political rhetoric. These folk that fly to talk about when a white cop shoot a black guy, the black guy never wrong. But the black preacher that flies over there, he gets rich behind it. But then our black boys can kill our black boys every day, and his lips are tied, don't have nothing to say about it, and they're killing more of them, and nobody's doing anything. Nobody's willing to stand up and fight and govern y'all and structure to save our children from our children.
Let me see what you got there. I don't know how to copy and paste that thing. I don't know how to copy and paste that. I don't know how to copy and paste that, Nanya. What I'm going to do is, because if when I click on your thing, all it is going to do is just show it. So I don't know how to actually get that in. That right there. So, but anyway, let's I'm on an hour right now. So let me get over to some of this stuff that I want to kind of talk about. And keep this in mind, because I'm going to remind you guys, the United States.
Sure, I absolutely do. I believe transparency. You're the board of directors for this corporation called the American government, and I believe that you're entitled to those within the bounds of classification. Absolutely. So whatever documents are out there should be turned over to the appropriate committees of jurisdiction and oversight, and whatever witnesses are needed to establish truth and transparency within the bounds of classification should absolutely happen. Absolutely. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Chairman, I agree with General Milley, and I associate myself with his remarks.
Okay. American government, what they call the American government, it's a corporation. Corporation.
Directors for this corporation called the American government, and you're the board of directors for this corporation called the American government. And transparency, you're the board of directors for this corporation called the American government, and I.
All right. You keep that nice and fresh in your mind. Let me get rid of some of these.
First, legally.
All right. So what I want to go over here was just want to come in and get some of these definitions of what we got in regards to dealing with proper understanding of what we're dealing with here. Now, we went over yesterday and the day before in dealing with this right here, repair. Right? So we're dealing with repair, reparations, restoration, restitution, I should say. So we understand what this definition is, right? To repair is to mend, remedy, restore, renovate, right? Based on any type of to restore based on injury, dilapidations, partial destruction. Now, if you actually take into consideration from what I was showing earlier, then you'll know that this is what's involved. All these different things that were happening at that time is evidence enough to actually show why these things need to be restored and repaired. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is, right, we're going to take a look at American. So it says of or pertaining to the United States. That's all we got. Okay. Thought I had that. But yeah, so so when you take a look at United States, right? So the United States, right, has several meanings. It may, meaning it could, be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of other sovereigns in family of nations. It may designate territory over which sovereignty of the United States extends, or it may be collective name of the states which are united by and under the Constitution. That's it. No definitive meaning for it. It could mean many different things based on where you're at. So if you say venue or jurisdiction, then that's how we'll understand what the United States is. So if they're saying, if you look up America and then you say see United States, this is what they consider to be the United States to be. And that's what they consider the United States to be in America. Okay, now let's go over here to India. Okay, we're going to look at all these different things about India. But first, I want you to take a look at this definition. Okay, so this definition right here, donor. Donor. Donor, the party conferring a power, one who makes a gift, one who creates a trust, he who gives lands or tenements to another entail. In Old English law, he by whom lands were given to another, the party making a donatio. Okay, just a Latin term for donor. Now here is donee. Donee up here. One to whom a gift is made or a bequest given. One who is invested with a power of appointment. The party executing a power, otherwise called the appointor. Now let's stop right there. So if you're a donee, now keep in mind, we're dealing with the indigenous people and we're dealing with the United States. Okay? So we're talking about treaty, we're talking about contracts. So just keep that in mind. So one to whom a gift is made or a bequest given, one who is invested with a power of appointment. So if you're an investor, right? If you're invested, if you're an investor, you're pretty much investing in that donee. That donee is now invested with a power of appointment. Now you got to look that up real quick. I might go to it, I might not, I don't know. The power of appointment, there's a Power of Appointment Act that started in 1951. Power of Appointment Act, right? The power of appointment. The party executing a power. So if the donee is executing a power, that means that he's executing a power for the donor. Remember, the donor is the party conferring a power, one who makes a gift, one who creates a trust, right? One who gives lands or tenements to another entail. He to whom lands or tenements are given entail. Donee beneficiary. In a third-party contract, the person who takes the benefit of the contract, though there is no privity between him and the contracting parties. So, donor, donee, and then the donee beneficiary. So, there's your trust. Donee of power, the person to whom the settlor or donor of a power of appointment gives such power to be exercised. So now we're getting clarity on this donor-donee relationship and really what the donee is actually in position to do. People think, well, I'm a donee, you just gave me something. Not necessarily. So in this, right, you got key words, settlor. So the person to whom the settlor or donor of a power of appointment. So now we know what that power of appointment means. So my power that I gave was a power of appointment to do X, Y, to execute or to execute something. But in this line, as it continues, says, give such power to be exercised. In the case of a special power, in favor of a limited class, such as members of a family, or in the case of a general power, in favor of anyone, including the donee himself. Now, let's get over here. Go understand this relationship and how it really was. I'm going to come back to that indemnity. All right. All right, so let's go through these definitions. See what this Indian Claims Commission is. The Indian Claims Commission hears and determines claims against the United States on behalf of any Indian tribe, band, or other identifiable group of American Indians residing within the United States. Indian country, part of public domain set apart for use, occupancy, and protection of Indian peoples. Indian lands, real property ceded to the U.S. by Indians, commonly to be held in trust for Indians. People say, well, this trust that was set up, no, that means that they got control of everything. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. Okay? See, Indian country. We just saw Indian country, Indian reservation, Indian tribal property, Indian tribe. Okay, now let's go over here to Indian title. Claim of Indian tribes of right because of immemorial occupancy. Like we always say, time immemorial. Immemorial occupancy means that it can't be dated. Been here. To occupy certain territory to exclusion of any other Indians. Permissive right of occupancy granted by federal government to Aboriginal possessors of the land. It is mere possession, not specifically recognized as ownership, and may be extinguished by federal government at any time. Now, this right here is where you get your issue. Because this Indian title is more likely to be colorable title in a sense where they was able to get some type of control. Because this definition right here, this definition right here is supposed to be held in trust for Indians. And if we get our definition here, the party conferring the power. You're giving power to them to do something, to exercise. right? To exercise. Indian tribe, a separate and distinct community or body of the Aboriginal Indian race of men found in the United States. A separate and distinct community or body of the Aboriginal. When you talk about body, you're talking about a body politic, government, nation. And this goes straight to the 1828 definition of what an American is. Aboriginal copper-colored races, but they're calling them Indian right here, of men found in the United States. But they're using the United States. See, this is where the trickery goes right here when they're talking about this United States. Okay? An Indian tribe within meaning of Indian Non-Intercourse Act, and we talked about that in the debate, these intercourse acts, and what they really was about is a body of Indians of the same or similar race united in a community under one leadership or government and inhabiting a particular, though sometimes ill-defined territory. See, the thing about this ill-defined territory is the issue. And this is how they were able to manipulate the situations in the courts to justify their new acts and their new legislations regarding their relationship with us. And that's how they broke off easily, just slipped out of obeying the treaties. So this is what we have right here. Boom. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on this. All right. So let's go a little bit deeper into these terms, right? This is some notes that I have on the corpus juris secundum notes, right? In corpus juris secundum, right? And this is 90, volume 90. Intention of creator or settlor. So if you're the settlor, as it says right here, in Donia Power, settlor, the person to whom the settlor or donor, right, of a power of appointment gives such power to be exercised. So if you're the settlor, you're also the creator. Violation of intent. Substitution of discretion. Neither court nor beneficiary, not, hold on, let me minimize this. Neither court nor beneficiary, not legislature. Neither court nor beneficiary, not legislature, is competent to violate settlor's intent and substitute its discretion for that of settlor. As I was stating in my presentation, that plenary powers, and this is what has been done. Now, the corpus juris secundum, along with American jurisprudence, because they pretty much run parallel. They talk about the same things. These documents had to be written by the indigenous people who set up these treaties and set up these jurisprudence and like you say, you got corpus juris secundum in order to maintain, what their duties and responsibilities are. Because American jurisprudence and corpus juris secundum their main purpose in those books or these volumes, encyclopedias, are to make sure that these people in every form of fashion of government, in business, in dealing, in banking, in contracts, and every other aspect of it is to make sure they maintain their fiduciary responsibility as the donee, as the appointee, and to exercise their power and actually in their fiduciary responsibility, in their fiduciary capacity. Footnote 18, it further says, intent as law of trust. Intent as law of trust. The intent or intention of the settlor of the trust is the law of the trust. That's why when you get these books, corporate juris secundum, American jurisprudence, all the different things, Constitution, wherever you have in order, is the law in the structures and the articles that's broken down from right here. Everything that the United States was supposed to be doing on this continent was to operate in trust for the indigenous people, because it was our land, it was our products, it was everything that we created right here. And in order for them to come over here and do business and to set up treaties and contracts with us, they had to follow the rules that was set. And then we ceded land. Now I'm gonna get into what ceded means. Ceded people think, well, they ceded land. That means they just quit and gave up and say, here you go, we out. No, that's not how it went. Section 162. Attention is footnote 18, right? So we still on footnote 18. Rights created, powers reserved, and determine what rights are created by a trust instrument. The intent of the creator is controlling. Let me read on. Rights created, powers reserved. In determining what rights are created by a trust instrument, the intent of the creator is controlling. Number 2, in interpreting a trust to determine what rights are created or what powers are reserved, intent of settlor is controlling. Construing instruments together. Instrument exercising power of appointment. Where a trust agreement provides for a power of appointment. Power of appointment. The instrument exercising the power is read into the agreement. Purposes of trust. Footnote 75 states the intent and purpose of the settlor of the trust is the law of the trust. All righty. Now, let's get into this. We already got that settled. Now let's get up into, let's go here. All right. Now, right here. Now, this is volume 9, banks and banking. Special deposits, section 283, special deposits. Keep in mind, settlor, donor, creator, trust, power of appointment, donee, Indian country. Right? So keeping all this in mind here, Indian tribe, Indian lands, Indian country. A special deposit is a delivery of property, securities, or even money to the bank for the purpose of having the same safely kept and the identical thing deposited returned to the depositor, or one for some specific purpose, such as deposits discussed in Section 286, not contemplating a credit on general account, and may also be defined as one held for a particular purpose in identical or equivalent form as when deposited, subject to return at any time and no commingled by the depository with other funds or assets of the bank. So that means if I deposit something with you or donate something to you for the power that you need to execute, it must be returned in equal form or an amount. A special deposit is a delivery of either money or chattel, right? So you got chattel property, which is crops, so on and so forth, to a band under a special agreement or under circumstances sufficient to create a trust. Or a deposit accompanied by an agreement or a treaty that the identical deposit will be returned or paid out for a specific purpose, or a bailment agency or trust whereby a bank keeps or transmits the identical property or funds entrusted to it. Now, determination of character of deposit. A bank deposit is ordinarily a general deposit. Now, just think about it as you got a bank account, right? Let's just say let's keep it right to a bank account. A bank deposit is ordinarily a general deposit. There is a rebuttal presumption that a deposit in general, and the burden of proof is on the party claiming that a deposit is special. In the absence of a specific direction or agreement to the contrary, a deposit is general. A deposit is special only if the money is placed in the bank for the purpose or safekeeping, or on the understanding that the bank shall act as a bailee, or only if it is made for a specific purpose with special instructions or an agreement between the bank and the depositor to use for the funds for a special purpose. An agreement may be manifested by the bank's acceptance of a conditional deposit. If the agreement of the bank to a special deposit is to be implied by the acceptance of a deposit, accompanied by written instructions, the writing should set forth by clear direction what the bank is required to do. All right. So I just want to go over that so you guys could get an understanding of what we have here. So in order to repair and restore, this relationship needs to be expressed. Now, they use the word seed. Okay? They use the word seed. But you see right here, and this is the last part of this I want to show. This is the relationship between the bank and the depositor. So let's say the United States is the bank, right? They set up their bank, they set up their company, and they setting up their own financial institution that we have. Maybe the United States is just a financial institution that was utilized, that was created for a specific purpose. It says there is no debtor and creditor relation between the bank in which special deposit is made and its special depositor, their status or relation being that of agent and principal, bailee and bailor, or trustee and cestui trust. Title to the thing deposited does not pass to the bank, but remains in the depositor. the latter retaining the right of control and disposition, right? So they do have control. They're given that power. They have control and disposition. That's it. Thus, the depositor retains title to the thing deposited, and the bank acts as a bailee. So if we ceded land, right, under the circumstances, if we ceded land, real property ceded to the U.S. by Indians, commonly to be held in trust for Indians. Indian country, part of a public domain set apart for use. So it's Indian country, but it's set apart for public use. Occupancy and protection of Indian peoples. Okay? Now, when we get over here, let's go to C. Let's see if they got seed in here. See, this is what people need. See, people need to come up over here because they need to get this. Fuck talking about it. You got to understand it. This is the only way it's going to happen. Period. There's no other way. You got to understand it. That's right, Rich. They got to understand it. Here it is. Seed. To yield up, to assign, to grant, to surrender, to withdraw. Now, people like to hang on to this surrender thing. But here's what you got here. Here's what you got. I'm gonna keep that line in there. Thanks to the greatest. The great spirit did that for me. Appreciate you. So to yield up, they said, okay, well, shit, we gave it up. Yeah. But if follows that, it says to assign, to grant, right? If it says to assign it to grant, if you're a grantor, and I'm just going to run through it. To yield up, to assign, to grant. What page is this? 217? Let me hold that. Okay, so we got to assign. Let's go back to our definition. The party conferring the power, the one who makes a gift, one who creates a trust, one who gives lands, donating of power, to whom the settlor, okay? The settlor. That's the real term, settlor, creator, one who creates a trust. Let's put it together. All right. Let's go to grant. Let's go to grant. We'll go to grant first. Grant, to bestow, to confer. What did it say? Where you at? Donor, the party conferring in power. What is grant? To bestow, to confer upon someone other than the person or entity which makes the grant. So, donor is the one that grants the power, right? If we're granting, if ceding means grant, then that means we bestowed and or conferred, bestow, to confer upon someone, the donee or the donee of power, other than the person or entity which is the donee. They didn't make the grant. The donor did. The settlor did. The creator did. Now, here's with the proverbial body bag. To bestow or confer with or without compensation. A gift. What does it say? What does it say? One who makes a gift. Gift. One who makes a gift. The donor. The donee. One to whom a gift is made or a bequest given. To bestow or confer with or without compensation, a gift or bestowal by one having control or authority over it. To bestow or confer with or without compensation, a gift or bestowal by one having control or authority over it as of land or money. So if we ceded land to them, we granted it to them. We yielded up. Hey, yeah, go ahead. We can't look at it as a victim or like they have some type of power, like they said, hey, get that up. No. If you're gifting something, that's not under pressure. You're setting up a grant and you're granting something, setting up a trust to be held. Listen closely. Now, we're about to go over here to tenements. Tenements. Where that? Tennessee. Tenements. Tenements. I don't think I ain't got that in there. Hold on, let me check real quick. Tenements. No results. All right. I'm gonna look this up real quick. All right, here we go. All right. All right, so tenement. Let's see here. Tenements were cramped, low-rise apartment buildings, often 5 to 7 stories tall, built rapidly to the house. Each poor ventilation nor indoor plumbing and severe overcrowding causing frequent disease outbreaks. What? Tenements were cramped, low-rise apartment buildings, often 5 to 7 stories tall, like projects, built rapidly to house the growing working class and immigrant populations in the 19th and early 20th century urban centers, notably New York City's Lower East Side. How about that? Derived from Latin to near to hold, these dwellings were critical for industrial urbanization, but resulted in squalid, unsafe living conditions, spurring major housing reforms. Wow. So here's tenement. A, tenement house, apartment, flat, a house used as a dwelling, residence, any of various forms of corporeal property, such as land or incorporeal property that is held by one person from another. Dwelling. So if we come back over here to, and I'm gonna close out on that. If if we come back over here to this definition, right? Wow. If we, based on the information, let's go one more time. All right, so this is tenement. Okay, so I think this is probably the more closest definition that matches what we're looking at. So any of various forms of corporeal property. And I want to know what that means. Corporeal property refers to tangible material assets that have a physical existence, can be seen, touched, and possessed, such as land, buildings, machinery, and personal belongings. It represents the ownership of physical objects, distinguishing it from incorporeal property, which involves intangible rights like intellectual property or easements. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty much the definition. So if we go right here and we go here in this definition, so it states what a donee is. Donee, one to whom a gift is made, request given, one who is invested with the power of appointment, the party executing a power, otherwise called the appointer. He to whom lands or tenements are given entail. So what I'm going to do is see what that means. What do the phrase one who is given tenements entail? The phrase, let's blow it up a little bit. The phrase one who is given tenements entail refers to a person, a grantee or beneficiary, who has received an interest in real property, such as land or houses, that is legally restricted to specific descendants, typically direct bodily heirs like children. In historical legal terms, this person is, where did it go? This person is known as a tenant in tail or a tenant in fee tail. The property cannot be sold, divided, or given to someone outside the specified family line. Cut short fee. The term tail derives from medieval Latin fidum taliotum, meaning a cut short fee, because the standard unrestricted right to sell property, fee simple, is cut or restricted. The person in possession is often considered a tenant for life because they can enjoy the income from the land but cannot alienate, sell, or give away the land itself. Bingo. Reversion: if the tenant entail dies without leaving the required heirs, the property does not pass to their spouse or through their will, but rather reverts to the original grantor or their heirs. So in this one right here, so if they were to receive tenements, that means that they were in possession and a tenant for life. They enjoyed the income from the land, but cannot alienate, sell, or give away the land itself. Now, what do we have? What do we have going on today, and what has been going on over the last 100 years? Just to say 100 years. We'll just say 120 years. Okay, so a lot of this stuff has been going on. Now, under the circumstances, we're looking at something that we can put our finger on. We got something we can put our finger on now. So all these different things that we got, right? All these different things that we got to make sure that we can put these things and piece them together. Now, I know I'm making it sound simple. That's because I do this every day. But this is where people can play positions. I mean, if you really want to get the reparations and get restitution, you pretty much have to figure out how, who, when, where, what. And with that being said, we'll end it right there. I'm going to end it off with my boy King Chameleon. And yeah, this is what we're talking about, royalty over slavery. And we got to get back to that. Under the circumstances, I'll eventually, once I get, comfortable, I'm gonna get into services and things like that, things that we could possibly put together. And but in the meantime, we're gonna keep breaking this down. 20 minutes over my time, dang it. 90 minutes. Keep me on time, Nunya. Keep me on time. But let's get this on the way out.
Yeah, I can get your land back. Yeah, I can discharge your debt. You gotta live by 5 principles before we just connect. Cause you could pose as my friend and then really be the threat. Like Brutus the Julius to the dudes that killed Malcolm X. Get your hand out of my pocket! What you doing in my pocket, nigga? Get your hands out of my pocket! Get your hands out! Brother, please. Y'all think getting remedies important. We make your lawyers lose their indemnity insurance. King Chameleon, private, I don't wanna be popular. Grandpapa, Hulk Papa, Mama Black Mafia. Yeah, we them big owners holding rank. You call Rocket Lawyer, I call the owner of the bank. He in the private at the temple, like Ginobili in the paint. And we got 3 militaries, we might be rolling in some tanks. While you balancing with a check gross, going to work for debt notes. Overtime all your life paying mortgages, then you left broke. Damn. Shout out to Mayweather, who's obviously woke. He settled $18 million with a promissory note. I'm not your corporation's chattel, this world gotta be a joke. Blind leading the blind, so we never gonna see.
But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Everybody fake woke while the president is asleep. So I introvert myself cause it's evident to me. No one saves us but us. Who'da said it in BC? No title deeds to just reference the evidence to me. Man, you don't own it. You a tenant and it says it on your deed. You said with a sign but didn't take the time to even read. It's gotta be an idiocracy. They call you crazy as Kanye just for thinking logically. 2 million nationals backing us to stop who ain't stopping me. For instance, when Columbus came over here, they admitted Native Americans was already there. But if our kids take a test on who discovered land we on, and you say Native Americans, you get the question wrong. Don't lie to us, you are just a colonist. Can't hide the truth. We got all the proof from the anthropologists. We know the system now, it's time to get up out of it. But it's our fault, because we fought so hard to be a part of it.
Now, I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. You pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that's a blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
All people trying to burn us, out and selling services with disclaimers, saying that it ain't for legal purposes. No cash, broke ass, internet burglars with temporary schemes and a lot of fraudulent dreams. Yeah, we got our own embassy, we got our own consulate, foreign administrations, and 3 armies on top of it. We live by 5 principles, but we'll die for this. Freedom back to the people, protect them from the apocalypse. I took that title that they gave me and I clouded it. That's what you say, sets the Cuban. I got a bond with this. My way of thinking pissed the military off. I ain't with their way of thinking, roll the military law. We coming peaceful outside the mosque and the cathedral. And we'll resort to violence. I gotta protect my people. They call us ghetto, they call us thugs. The only God they worship, guns, oil, and drugs. I'm on the block, Martin Luther King was shot. Holding a gun that killed Kennedy, trying to find a remedy. You can't cancel me nor censor me. With chancery and sensory, God-like energy to infinity. My actions are my testament. I got a lot of questioning. How Ben Frank was on 100 but was never president. You broke, you go to jail. You got money, you get right out. They lock you up for drugs, but they got coke in the White House. What?
Listing your house isn't the only way to sell. Here's
And all right, we out. Thanks for everybody that showed up and anybody that come up and listen later. To the next one.